Sorry for that. So good afternoon again to everyone watching, and welcome. I would like, first of all, to thank the organizers and our esteemed speakers for participating in this very interesting discussion, the subject of which, health systems of tomorrow, pharma policies for growth, even though it is quite specific, in reality has multiple points of view. Most health systems have been facing the need to evolve to address the growing needs of aging populations and patients, restricted resources, and on top of that, the impact of a pandemic. But strangely enough, it was COVID that showed the way forward towards more effective health systems. Broad and cross-functional collaboration lifted barriers and accelerated responses, facilitated therapeutic and preventative advancements, and leveraged digital advancements, but also helped health systems in many countries endure the weight of the pandemic. Well, it turns out that where there's will, there's a way. The same can be told for pharma policies, besides those that have been widely talked about in Greece and criticized, especially in our country. There are those policies that most stakeholders agree upon. Nevertheless, setting them up and implementing them seems to be a difficult task. Could the lessons learned from the pandemic hold the key for the future of healthcare systems by helping adapting pharma policies that foster growth? And what would be their impact to the health system? So this is broadly what we're going to talk about with our esteemed speakers in the next 30 minutes. And starting off the conversation, I will like to turn to Ms. Sabrina Schilling, Vice President of Digital Health Solutions Marketing at Roche Diagnostics, based in Switzerland. Sabrina, good afternoon. The global reaction to COVID is a prime example of an accelerated, coordinated, and cooperative reaction to a global health challenge. Have we discovered a novel approach to do more with less and faster, and what may that entail?
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be a speaker here. So indeed, the pandemic, and as you already outlined, has shown the importance of, on the one hand side, collaboration, but then also speed to bring new technologies, new vaccines to the market. This is only possible if everyone works together, and we've seen that very well. All disciplines, all stakeholders work together, whether it was the industry, pharma or diagnostics, the healthcare providers, governments, or the payers. They all work together in this pandemic, and I think this is an example that we haven't seen in that extent before, but that we should use as an example for the future. Also, due to the close collaboration and working together, we were able to accelerate processes that typically take much longer. I guess we've all discussed how comes that vaccines are available so quickly, or new diagnostic tests. And here policies and policymakers have played a really big role in accelerating also the approval processes, and that's something we should consider for the future. So driven by economic pressure and by really bringing some end to this crisis, we could see that we can accelerate healthcare advances. And I think we need to translate this also into other areas of healthcare if we want to see growth here. Let me talk about an example in cancer care. In cancer care in the past, we have treated patients with blockbusters. Those were typically very expensive, coming with nasty side effects for most of the patients, while being not always very effective in helping the patients to survive longer. Today, if we combine new technologies like new diagnostic methods and technologies, the sequencing, together with leveraging data and digital, as well as targeted therapies, we can make cancer care much better. But again, disciplines have to come together, people have to work together to accelerate, and this has the power not only to give the patients a longer life, but also to be more cost efficient due to the targeted therapies instead of a blockbuster that doesn't necessarily help everybody. So going towards personalized care with the help of everybody, with everybody working together, accelerating the processes, I think this is what we should learn from the pandemic, from the good examples, and we should take that also after the pandemic to other healthcare fields.
Sorry again, I keep on forgetting opening my mic. So Ms. Suzanne Kohut is country president and managing director of Novartis Ελλάς. Suzanne, just to focus a little bit more on the importance of innovative partnerships as they formulated during the COVID-19 pandemic, what opportunities do they represent for the health ecosystem in the way forward?
So first of all, I think the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated a lot of the underlying problems of the health sector. But also it showed the interdependency, the many interdependency of society, health, economy, business, politics, and science. And I think we all have experienced it every day because we saw all the experts on the TV. Now, what also I think it clearly shows that the pandemic put us into a situation which could not be solved by individuals, individual organization, or individual governments even. So I think what we saw and what Sabine said already, the mindset of cooperation totally changed. And I like to be very pragmatic. In the early days of the pandemic, it started that private and public organization donated basic infrastructure, ICU beds, etc. Then I think right now in vaccination, we see a cooperation that competitors work together to get as many vaccinations to the people, to produce them to manufacturing. And I think we have here seen in Greece even very well what ministries, when they work together, can do. I think managing the pandemic from digitalization and supported by the health minister up to the vaccination. I got my second shot on Friday, and I'm impressed about the journey, the digital journey, from registration, follow-through, having finally the certificate. I think this is unique in Europe. Now, the WHO clearly said we can only solve the underlying issues with a One Health organization. And I think the One Health organization, I mean One Health governance, where all the people work together. And I think that is a unique opportunity we have in hand here in Greece to rewrite really a new social contract for health. And getting all the stakeholders together, working in a new mindset, taking data, but also patient outcomes, and really writing something together to make it better for the future. And I think we need really smart decision making based on data and patient outcomes. So we should not, the healthcare system should not simply only reimburse, I say, hospital stays, doctor visits, pills, treatments, etc. But it should be based really on patient outcome, really so that we can really have a sustainable system based on health, on patient outcome, and the patient outcome will really serve that patient can live better and longer. That should be the final outcome of a new social contract. Thank you.
Turning to Mr. George Simis, Country Director of Amgen Ελλάς and Cyprus. So George, just to get back on the opportunities that innovation and the collaboration with diagnostics could mean for health systems, does the Greek health system need to refocus its strategy on assuring maximum health and quality of health for its population?
Well, I would say definitely yes. And let me start by saying that in order to have such a new, efficient and patient-centric healthcare system in Greece, we need to change our mindset. We need to move away from the old, traditional, costly and ineffective model of problem finding and fixing to a new era of predict and prevent disease. This is key, I think, for the future, for our society. It's not easy. First of all, it takes strong political will. And secondly, it requires long-term planning, and it also needs flawless execution. But I think that timing-wise, we're in a very good situation right now. We have the resilience and recovery funds across Europe, but also in Greece. The Greece 2.0 plan is a very good example. It talks a lot about healthcare. And if we do collaborate, as was said before, and work together towards finding this new system, we will be able to move things forward. I can assure you that the innovative industry in Greece, we are committed in working together with the government, with policymakers, with all stakeholders, to work on specific and tangible action plans to move things into the right direction. And you know, this is key. We are not so well organized, or we are not so strong in collaborating in Greece historically. We have now the opportunity to rationalize the system. We have the opportunity to exploit digitalization, exploit the opportunities that derive from the European plans, and together come up with something which will last for the future and which will ensure, finally, access of innovative treatments to patients in need in our country. Now, of course, this will take time. And in the meantime, we have to ensure that we don't just, wait for the final result to come. For example, what was said before around cancer, it's a very good example. We have now the European plans about Beat Cancer. Beat Cancer is a plan which deploys 4 billion euros across Europe to really tackle the devastating issue of cancer. And we have now the tools, we have the technology to be able to diagnose early enough those patients in need with the right mechanisms like the sequencing, gene sequencing, and the biomarkers, and finally be able to ensure that the right patient gets the right medicine at the right time in our country. This would be a major win for everyone. It's not just an industry or a government or a patient, thing. We have to collaborate to make it happen. Otherwise, we do face a risk that innovative, personalized and targeted treatments will not be available to those in need in the way that they really need it. And it would be a pity to lose this opportunity.
Thank you. So next we'll go to Ms. Iulia Chetis, CEO of Unipharma and Intermed, member of the Board of Directors of SEV and President of Global Compact Network Ελλάς. Ms. Chetis, when talking about growth in relation with the pharmaceutical industry, there is first the issue of sustainability. In an ever-changing environment, what do you think have to be the main goals going forward?
Good afternoon, Mrs. Agouridis. Every time in our lifetime, we experience a serious crisis of any form, and we need to have the ability to transform the problem, to be able to learn from it, and to move forward stronger than before. We have learned a lot from the pandemic. It shook us and taught us to act with wisdom, responsibility, and solidarity. The serious health crisis has affected the economy, the society, the labor market, and of course, all of our social behavior. It is time for cooperation and social unity. The post-pandemic day requires leaders with empathy and sensitivity, with knowledge, sobriety, and rational thinking. Leaders with a vision that inspires and transforms goals and numbers into action and prosperity. The main goal of the new era and the restart, according to me, to the global economy must be the preservation of jobs, millions of which have been lost in the last year, and the shift to a new productive model. A model pivoting on industrial production, sustainable development, and environmental protection. One of the dominant issues that emerged during the crisis is the autonomy of production, raw materials, and finished products of food and medicine. The next day of pharmaceutical industry in Europe should be based on self-sufficiency of production, adequate funding of research, new therapeutic approaches, cooperation among research groups, and connecting innovation with production. All this within a frame of new technologies and digital reform, and always respecting social ethics. In previous year, the deindustrialization of Europe cost us greatly in terms of jobs and growth. It is our duty to give space and opportunity again to domestic production so that it can flourish. Along with the digital revolution, a second astonishing revolution is already on the way, that of biotechnology. This revolution, with the participation of researchers from around the globe, will very soon create innovative therapies and will contribute to the treatment of future epidemic and chronic disease. The future belongs to those with the imagination to shape it.
Thank you. Last but definitely not least in this first part of our talk is Mr. Andreas Pollner, Managing Director of Bayer Ελλάς and the Pharma Cluster of Greece, Cyprus, Bulgaria and Romania. Andreas, turning Greece into an innovation hub for the region is foremost an attainable goal. With the focus falling years now on the importance of increasing clinical research in general, how could the Greek health system improve its performance in this field?
Well, thanks a lot, and thanks for the invitation and the question. I think it all starts with research and development, also any of the innovative solutions. So when we were looking into some of the gaps that we identified for clinical trials and become a hub, we clearly saw that it is extremely important to further advance what we've seen concretely with experienced researchers. So advance their competencies and education to match them with the benchmark, the top benchmark in Europe. In addition, I think we also need to attract a new generation of researchers in this area, because it is a future that is very vivid, and I think it's important that everyone understands that. A third part might be, and we've talked about this already here, is the infrastructure, especially in the key hospitals, by leveraging European funding to create centers of excellence in research and development. One thing that struck me when I was working with some of the thought leaders here is that when they do research and clinical trials, they don't have any support from so-called study nurses. In many other countries, this is the case. So I would definitely, and we should, invest in education and specialization of study nurses as integral element of running and managing clinical trials in public hospitals, because they are a crucial part in connecting also with the patients in this part. And what is also already addressed was the topic of public-private partnerships. I think this is very important when we talk about real-world evidence. Real-world evidence will be more and more important, as we heard from Susanne, when we come to patient outcomes. However, this requires also a great infrastructure and the right skill set. And this is something we need to upgrade. And last but not least, I think we've seen now a lot of steps related to innovative solutions in telemedicine. The pandemic was an important driver for this. So we see now much more activities in collaboration for an ecosystem of telemedicine solutions. And I'm very positive that these developments will also be something where innovative pharma companies can engage, and Bayer is engaging there in several. So for me, the whole approach towards clinical trials is a journey where we engage looking at the education, looking at the acting healthcare professionals and all the other stakeholders, including the government. So I think this is something which has started. There are positive trends, but we are far from done. And I think that is important to continue.
So given our limited time, I think we have just enough time to go around once more on our hybrid table. Getting back to Suzanne, I would like to have your opinion on the importance of health data. We talked a little bit about it already, for informed decision-making, ultimately ensuring more equity, access to healthcare and sustainability.
Sorry, let me start with sharing some facts. I think we all get older. We see the society gets older. 5% are today over 80. In 80 years, it will be 15%. We see that 75% of the health expenditure is spent behind chronic diseases. And cardiovascular is the most deadly disease. So it is the leading cause of death in Europe, 3.9 million per year, and 210 billion euros are spent on this one. And knowing that 20% of all health expenditures are not spent properly because of silos and also fragmented services. Now, when we look really at Greece, we are the best positioned here on data because we have the e-prescription system, but also the COVID. We are one of the few countries who have a COVID registry. Furthermore, we see with the cooperation of digital ministry plus health ministry, there is a catalyst really where we could explore the data. So what we need is really a concrete framework about the utilization of data to take smart decisions on all these, what I said, cardiovascular diseases, all of this one would be to deal with the facts and the underlying issues. So we want really informed choices to make out of the data. Therefore, we need the framework for how we generate data, how we manage the data, and how we disseminate the data. So what the final end is that we come really in interfering in the patient's lifetime with the right decisions. So for optimal outcome and securing the healthcare system. Thank you, Vasiliki.
George, you described the health system that begins its interaction with the patient at an earlier stage for prevention and early diagnosis using tools such as data and biomarkers, like we talked. Is this patient-centered health system you talked about feasible?
Well, I think it is. It's not easy, as I said before, but the key word here is collaboration, obviously starting with political will. But we have proven, and the pandemic has proven that in Greece, that if we want to achieve something and we really believe in it, we can plan it very well and we can also execute it flawlessly. Suzanne said before about her experience with COVID-19 vaccination. Yeah, it's true. We can do miracles in Greece if we really, really believe in that. Now, I think that the vaccines situation with COVID-19 has proven a lot as well around the importance of predict and prevent for the healthcare systems. No one denies the important role that vaccines are playing in bringing humanity back to normality in this year. And we really hope that things will improve very fast as we move with vaccination. And there is the role of the innovative industry to really work together with stakeholders and policymakers to move things forward. We discussed before about early diagnosis in cancer. It's really important to really utilize biomarkers and gene sequencing and get those innovative and personalized treatments available for people out there, even in Greece. There's a perception that these medicines are very expensive, the CAR-Ts, the BiTEs. Actually, they're not. As long as you can predict early who can benefit from a treatment, you can have the right patient getting the right drug. So you save money for the system, and you also save lives. So it is doable, and it's up to us to make it happen.
Thank you so much. Andreas, you talked about designing the environment of research in Greece, but what would be the benefits?
Thank you, Vasiliki. I think there are multiple elements and benefits, and I don't want to talk about all of them, but I think to just highlight a few of them. When we talk about, for example, the patients, clinical trials and research especially gives a first-hand and early access to innovative treatments. So I think it might be a wrong perception that sometimes patients consider themselves as guinea pigs in clinical trials. It's the contrary. I think they are much more pioneering together with experienced investigators on innovative treatments which are really necessary. That improves also the clinical practice, and I think it also helps to understand what ways are for a personalized medicine important. Another topic which is clear is that clinical trials are also an alternative source of funding for the healthcare system. We should not forget this. And another part in clinical trials and research is that this is much more driving into digital areas. we have now a lot of digital apps supporting distant clinical trials. And we have also seen this progress here in Greece. And I think this is something where it starts from the diagnosis, the patient journey, to the personalized medicine, that this will progress. And I'm very impressed to see how many startups and also academic institutions are engaging there. Look, I mean, if you look at the data itself, in 2018 we had roughly 50 million of investments in clinical trials in Greece. Recent studies from Pharma Association have shown that in a few years this could be up to 250 million euros. And when you take this investment, it has a broader impact to the overall economy, which amounts to up to 1.1 billion euros. Obviously, these are indicative numbers, but the impact, the pure economic impact, is huge. And we can clearly see that it's important to build on this. In our company, we are very much engaged in clinical developments. We have currently 12 programs running in Greece, which clearly is an expression of the trust we have in the Greek setup and the healthcare system. So I believe that many companies will be very much prepared to invest more, and there's a broad impact and a positive impact for the whole society.
Thank you, Andreas. So, Ms. Chetty, you emphasized the importance of self-sufficiency of production. On April 24th, at a conference of EU conservative parties, Chancellor Merkel criticized the European strategy towards the pharmaceutical industry, saying, and I quote, "For many years, we have not treated our pharmaceutical industry in Europe so very well. We have had outflows to America, and the USA has probably the strongest pharmaceutical industry, at least in the Western world." Even though she acknowledged the importance of the European facilities in countries such as Belgium and Germany, for example, her statement seems to hint at the need for a different way forward for the pharmaceutical industry in the EU. Could you comment on that, and what do you think the next day in European pharma should look like?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Gouridis. The deindustrialization of Europe in the 70s did not take place in one night. It took place gradually due to the high costs of raw material, high wages, but also due to the demands of the trade unions, as well as for environmental reasons. Manufacturing plants were transferred outside Europe, along with technology know-how. Today, with this pandemic, the consequences are obvious. We suffer from deficits and raw material shortage. It is self-evident that when basic production of food and medicine is affected, citizens and society are directly affected as well. In my opinion, we can gain time by investing in innovation and research and by supporting the enhancement of production in Europe. Of course, we should do this while taking environmental and sustainability issues very, very seriously. In order to strengthen a robust industry in Europe, we should rationalize taxes and relate them to innovation and growth. We should reinvent the value of working in production. We should reapproach the working force and make working in industrial production attractive again. We should reward industrial profit and the people who work there. The pandemic, as painful as it is, has given us an opportunity to wake up and realize that in future we need to be more cooperative, to act with solidarity and turn to big pharma model, making the most of technology and the potential that digital revolution gives us. In Europe, it is fundamental that everybody has the same right to health and education. Social health insurance for all is a core value in Europe. Within this pandemic, we can now see what this means. In order for someone to be safe, no matter how much money she or he has, everybody needs to be safe. And as a member of a board of Greek Association of Industries, I would like to tell you that there is an insuperable need to strengthen the Greek production, to make Greece a hub of innovation and excellence, and to embrace digital platforms more vigorously.
Thank you so much. Sabrina, you opened up the conversation. You're going to close it also. So from your perspective, what should policymakers need to respect to ensure that the policies implemented lead to a better patient outcomes, sustainable systems, and growth? We have about 2 minutes for your answer, so please.
Okay, so I have to be very fast. Thank you. Yeah, so I think we've heard from all speakers, there's a couple of very important elements. We have the digital revolution and leveraging digital solutions. The importance of data to prove, better outcomes, but also data for the clinical trials and to get, new treatments, new diagnostics to the market. What is very important, and now talking from manufacturer perspective, is that we also have policies that give us access to the patient data, that give us easy access so we can leverage that data. We can use it in clinical trials to accelerate the developments, to bring treatments faster to market, and to really leverage the way we use digital in a new way. And in conclusion, I think acknowledging that only the access and the availability to everyone will improve the outcome of the patients. That's for me really a call to the policymakers to bring this environment or to create that environment that we can fully leverage and build for the future on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And this completes our conversation in time, as I can see. I would like to thank the speakers for giving me the honor of participating in today's talk and for the cooperation also. And thank you all for watching. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.